Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a pretty fascinating workplace story out of a leading software company, CYZ Technologies. But, this isn't actually just about software. It's really a deep, psychological look into the true meaning of value in any organization. I mean, we spend so much of our lives at work, right? Often wondering if we're actually doing the right things to get ahead. So let's break down the very real difference between simply being seen and genuinely being essential. I want you to stop and just think about this for a second. In your workplace, right now, are you chasing the applause or are you actually being useful? It's kind of a provocative question, isn't it? Because, let's be real, it is so easy to fall into the trap of just wanting to be noticed. We all want our hard work to be validated. That's just human nature. But, as we're going to see in the story we're about to unpack, the pursuit of validation can actually blind us to what genuinely keeps an organization running.
Which brings us to Section 1, the trap of applause.
So meet Aman. He was an employee at CYZ Technologies, and honestly, on the surface, he was the absolute star of the company. Everyone admired him. But his love for appreciation had slowly morphed into this really toxic addiction. Just look at his track record. He'd always present in meetings, but mostly just to hear the applause. He was literally the master of the company's internal social platform, raking in hundreds of reactions on his posts. But whenever there was a difficult, grueling task that had zero visibility, Aman avoided it completely. Yet, if there was a presentation in front of senior leadership, boom, his hand shot up to volunteer immediately. He even mastered the art of, physical proximity to success. He'd literally find ways to stand right beside others in company photographs just to passively absorb the credit. He brilliantly curated this whole illusion that he was the company's biggest contributor. But was he?
Let's look at Section 2, Aman versus Priya.
To really understand Aman's illusion, we have to look at his exact opposite, a coworker named Priya. Now, these two operated on completely different frequencies. While Aman displayed all those spotlight behaviors, the credit-seeking, the highly visible tasks, the constant need for an audience, Priya engaged in what we can call shadow work. She actively disliked the spotlight. She'd be quietly fixing production issues at midnight while everyone else was asleep. She was helping junior employees after office hours without asking for overtime or even a pat on the back. And she was constantly improving internal tools that kept the company running, even though nobody ever really noticed the updates. Honestly, very few people actually knew Priya's name, but practically everyone in that building unknowingly benefited from her quiet, foundational work.
That sets the stage for Section 3, the leadership test. So a few months pass at CYZ Technologies, and this prestigious international client visits headquarters. The stakes were incredibly high, and the CEO needed to choose just one employee to lead this massive project. Now, everyone expected him to choose the highly visible Aman, right? I mean, it makes sense. Instead, the leadership team did something really interesting. They asked different department heads this brilliantly simple yet completely revealing question. If something goes wrong tomorrow, whose absence would worry you the most? Notice how this question completely bypasses the whole concept of popularity. It doesn't ask who you like the most or who has the best presentations. It asks a fundamental question about operational survival. Who is actually holding the foundation together?
Well, the results of this test were absolutely shocking to the rest of the company. The answers were completely unanimous, but definitely not in the way Aman expected. The testing team, they mentioned Priya. The cloud team, they mentioned Priya. The security team, yep, Priya. Even the brand new employees who had barely been there a month mentioned Priya. And why? Not because she was famous or because she had the most likes on the internal network, absolutely not. Everyone relied on Priya because she had consistently helped them without ever expecting a single thing in return. The really crucial point here is that a man had admirers, but Priya had dependents. And the difference between those two things is absolutely enormous. Admiration creates attention. It's flashy, it's loud, but it's often super superficial. Dependability, on the other hand, creates trust. Many people admired a man, sure, but very few actually depended on him to get their jobs done. Trust is the actual currency of a highly functional team, not attention.
Moving on to Section 4, trophy versus the wheel.
Knowing who truly drove the company forward, the CEO called Abuman into his office for, a bit of an ego-checking intervention. He wasn't angry, though. He just wanted to give a visual demonstration. So he places two objects on his desk, a beautiful, shining trophy and a small, dirty wheel from an old machine. The CEO looks at Apuman and asks a simple question. Which one is more important? Naturally, Apuman, driven by his love for recognition, immediately smiles and says, the trophy. Without saying a word, the CEO quietly takes that small wheel and places it inside a small model machine on his desk.
The machine instantly springs to life, humming and working perfectly. Then he reaches in and removes the wheel. Everything grinds to a complete halt. And the trophy, it just sat there. Shiny, sure, but entirely useless to the machine's operation.
The CEO just smiled at Amin and delivered this incredibly powerful thought. The trophy attracts eyes. The wheel keeps everything moving. Never confuse visibility with value. I want you to really absorb that metaphor for a second. How often in our own careers do we strive to be the trophy? We want to be put on the shelf, polished up, and looked at. But organizations don't run on trophies. They run on wheels. They run on the people who do the essential, often unglamorous work of keeping the momentum going.
This brings us to our final part, Section 5, Becoming the Lantern.
Those words from the CEO deeply shook Amin. They sparked a profound transformation. He realized he had basically been playing the wrong game his entire career. So over the next year, he completely changed his approach. He stopped avoiding the hard work and started actively solving difficult problems, even the ones nobody else wanted to touch. He began mentoring interns quietly, without blasting it all over the company message board. He spent hours documenting complex systems just to make life easier for others. And when he did present, he used his platform to give his teammates the credit. Slowly but surely, the whole dynamic shifted. People stopped praising his flashy speeches. Instead, they started genuinely trusting his work. He became a wheel.
And the payoff for this growth was just incredible. 1 year later, another massive international project arrives, but this time, there was no need for a leadership test, no need for the CEO to ask around. The CEO simply smiled and said, the person who keeps this company moving should lead its future. Because Amin had spent the last year actually becoming genuinely useful, he was finally ready. The result? Amin and Priya were chosen to co-lead the massive new initiative together. A real full-circle moment.
After the project kickoff celebration, Aman had this moment of profound clarity. He walked right up to Priya to thank her, confessing, I spent years trying to be seen. Looking at her quiet dedication, he finally understood her secret. She had spent years trying to be useful. Humbly, Aman admitted that thanks to her example, and of course the CEO's wake-up call, he finally understood which path actually mattered in the long run.
Priya smiled at him and offered this incredible piece of wisdom to close out our story. She said, when the lights go off, people don't remember the brightest decoration. They look for the person carrying the lantern. This is just such a powerful visual to leave you with today. In your own career, the applause will eventually fade. The shiny decorations are going to be put away. But the foundational value you create, the trust you build by being dependable when things get dark or difficult, that earns lasting respect. So I'll leave you with this final thought to ponder. Are you polishing your trophy today, or are you lighting a lantern for your team? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep building that real value, and I'll see you next time.